I asked the two Nicks about that. You know who got all the credit? Jeff Rao. Jeff Rao. Jeff Willy's taking good care of us.
Well, you didn't talk to the crew I've talked to.
All right, Joy, I already hit record, so you can check that off your list.
Thank you, Elise.
I'm sorry, Elise. We have quite a few people on.
Oh, it looks like I've let everybody in that's requested to come in, so
Okay.
I think we've got most of our commission, and looks like we've got most of the board.
All right.
So whenever you want to get started.
We'll start the plan commission. So it is 6:30. So we'll call the plan commission to order. First item on the agenda is the roll call, please.
Schnelly,
Here.
Bano,
Here.
Meyer,
Here.
Marr,
Here.
Smithback,
Here.
Molzon,
Here.
Carpenter,
Here. All
Good.
right,
thank you.
and then I can do a call to order for village board.
Yep.
Joy, do you want to do a roll call for village board, please?
Yes. Peterson,
Here.
thank you. Glish,
Here.
Bollig,
Oleg is here.
Horton,
Here.
Stitch,
Here.
Jacobson,
Here.
Carpenter,
Here.
thank you.
All right. Thank you. We're going to roll on then to the approval of the planning commission minutes. So first item will be item 5B, November 12, 2020. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
Move to approve, Bano.
You have a second?
Second,
Second by
Molzon.
Molzon, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Next item is the minutes from December 3rd, 2020. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move, Marr.
Second, Bano.
Second, Bino, thank you. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Move on to item 6, which is community input. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to address anything regarding the community that is not on the plan commission agenda for the evening?
I would. This is Teresa Nelson.
Teresa, we'll have you, I believe you sent us a letter, is that correct?
I did.
All right, so it'll be on the agenda
Okay,
when we get to that point, okay?
great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
This is Arlen Kai. I wish to be
Arlen.
speaking about the park
Yeah.
as well. Do I wait till then?
Yes, sir, you do. I would appreciate if you would, please.
Okay.
All right. Okay, I don't think anybody else is there. So now we'll move on to item 7A. And what we'll do is it's a discussion with Mr. Maloney and Mr. Slavny from Vanderwall and Associates for the conceptual plan and designs for West Side Park. Mike, we have you there, or Jeff, are you there?
Yes, we're both here.
Okay, you guys want to give a presentation? Or discuss
Well,
anything?
Elise, did you want to introduce this first?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No problem. So just to bring everybody up to speed, early 2020, we engaged Vanderwall to do a few conceptual designs for just kind of getting the conversation started about the West Side Park, which is the west side of Keller Alpine Meadows Park, right along Alpine Parkway. That includes some of the parkland and then the land that was purchased back from the school district. So this is just sort of the final presentation for them to kind of wrap up the work that they did for us and present the concepts. The village board did get to see this, I believe, in August of 2020. So I won't go through the whole memo. It has some background about the property, the size, some of the reasons we asked them to explore potential uses like a village hall. We did a civic campus plan a couple years ago. And we know with the space constraints, Village Hall, as well as the aging of the building, that's something we need to be addressing soon. So this site was one that was identified as one to maybe consider for municipal building, whether that's Village Hall or something else. We also know that we have a need for more multi-use playing fields in the village. And so we wanted to take a look and see what that would look like on the site, how many would fit, how would it work with the rest of the park. So we asked them to prepare 2 different concepts, which Jeff and Mike will speak to, but just to clarify, we're not asking for any decisions tonight. This is a conceptual discussion. I know it can be alarming sometimes, especially for the public, to see, you know, these maps that are printed in the paper, and these are by no means a final draft. This is just to get the conversation started and to explore some different options for what this park could look like. I know we've gotten a lot of emails and some comments in the last couple of days about wanting to maintain some of the more natural features of the site. So that's something we can definitely start to explore. But the board in their 2021 budget has budgeted $10,000 for taking a conceptual design sort of to the next step, likely working with Rattler Corporation that's designed some of our other parks recently, and starting to look into some of the stormwater engineering and grading and all of that on the site. So with that, I'll turn things over to Mike and Jeff from Vanderwall.
Well, I can introduce this item. In the Plan Commission packet, which is page 24 of the PDF, Elise has provided our future land use map from the comprehensive plan. And this property, the northern 2/3 of it, is designated for park use. The southern third of it remains designated for institutional use because it reflects the potential use of that area for the school. And just as a reminder, depending on what the outcome of this long process is, we may need to amend the comprehensive plan's recommendation for this site. You know, for example, to show it all as park as one alternative that we'll be talking about. Jeff Maloney is the senior site designer for Vanderwall and Associates, and has laid out hundreds of sites around the country, focused here in southern Wisconsin. And Jeff, I'll turn over the discussion of the alternatives to you.
Thanks, Mike and Elise. Hello, nice to see everyone. I guess there are little pictures in the bottom of my screen. We did prepare these 2 concepts back in March of 2020. So it was right before everything shut down. So it's been a while since we did this. We kind of worked with staff and just rather quickly put these together to start the discussion and as Elise mentioned, to just get people to think about what fits on the site. They are pretty much interchangeable. So you see elements on there, they can be moved around, but it gives you a good idea what fits. In general, there's the east-west road, the existing road on the bottom there, you'll see on the south. Where that enters the site into the parcel, we kept south of that as an opportunity for development, just like Mike was mentioning in the future land use map. One alternative shows a village hall configuration, which we generally put some sizes to. The other one shows some affordable housing or just housing in general. And then the north shows some natural areas and some play fields. So this first option here, we can start with this one, at least that's fine. If we zoom in on the south, we can see where those residential is. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the area and the site itself, but as we walk through this designs or these concepts, just think about that the site generally falls from the west to the east. So we tried to use that existing topography as best we could in these concepts. And there's stormwater existing to the south, but we also added additional conceptual stormwater ponds along the south and the east to try to take any infiltration before it goes into more natural areas. So we want to respect the park to the natural area to the east. So in this first concept, it just shows a multifamily layout. I think we have 120 units. So we didn't didn't try to put very high density. We showed the setback from the street, similar to what's already built to the west. So each building there you see is about 24 to 40 units. We used a gross square footage, if you're interested, of 1,500 square feet, which is a lot for a gross, but we wanted to accommodate 3 bedrooms or potential family housing. That's really what the direction we were given. So, 120 units you could fit more on there if we needed to, or less. Stormwater pond to the south to collect the infiltration for that. There's plenty of parking in this concept for a 2-to-1 parking ratio. So 2 cars per unit over that. So you can see it. I think it fits pretty well on the site just conceptually. So it gives you an idea of what fits there. Then as we move north on the site where the Parks Avenue comes in, so that again divides kind of that property, your main access point. This concept shows all open space uses. So those rectangles you see on your site are just shown as like different opportunities for open field play. The one that says championship field where the little hand is actually has layouts of lacrosse, U18 soccer, football, and so you can see how that fits on there. So there's quite a bit of room. There's a parking lot there, the centralized parking lot with 160 stalls or so, and a pavilion and a playground. And then that transitions to the existing wetlands and the stormwater pond that are on the edge there. We haven't done a stormwater delineation or a wetland delineation, so that could change, but this is based on the DNR open water records and county wetland information that we have. Now remember I said that the site falls from west to east. So the concept where you see that north-south walkway, we talked with the engineer about how this site could be graded, and essentially the play fields along the street, could be graded flat as on a plateau. And then that play field to the east of that walkway would be down below a bit. And the walkway would kind of serve as that edge between the high ground and the low ground. That play field could, obviously become something else. It could be all natural area, but we think it would minimize disturbance to the ground and also provide a nice break in use. As you go to the north, that existing trail that kind of looks like a U, that's there now. So the parking lot and the north side just fits in there. That obviously could change. And in this concept, another important point that it's different from the other one is that the existing swale that goes around the north side of the site into the stormwater pond, in this concept is shown as a pipe, which allows us a little more flexibility to get in those play fields. Because if there is the swale, then we wouldn't be able to put as many uses on the site, obviously. And I think to finish it up on this one, there's just another shelter trailhead we thought would be an opportunity for the walking path, and as you go to the Conservancy area to the east. And on the other concept, it will start with the park on there, since we were just talking about the park. Thank you. This concept largely maintains that swale. You can see the blue line on the north side of the property. That's existing, all that where the hand is, and then it is moved right there on the east side. We shifted it over a little bit to allow room for another play field if that's desired by the community. Otherwise, and that wouldn't need the pipe that goes into the stormwater pond. This option has a little bit more wetland area or natural area shown in concept. Obviously that shaded area could change depending on what you wanted for uses, but we had that path again designating more active space from the passive space. The play fields are essentially the same location, same size. The parking lot on this option is a little smaller, though it could get bigger on the north side. And the playground, shelter, we showed a recreation area. Those are kind of sized for like tennis and pickleball and basketball to give you an idea what fits on the site. And then the opportunity for the village hall, again, we thought that this could be a 2-story building, and typically, we'd recommend putting buildings on the street, but with the natural area to the east and the sloping topography, we thought this could potentially be an exposed two-story exposed structure. So it'd basically be one story from the looking east and 2 stories looking west. This shows a 18,000 square foot footprint. So that's 32,000 square feet in total. And with an additional potential addition on the north side, 8,000 shown in that rectangle, could go larger. We base that not on any needs assessment, but largely based on knowing that could be community center, could be different services besides just the village hall. So we wanted to make it larger. And then also to give a real world example, Baraboo just redid their city hall a few years ago on the river. This is essentially the same size as that facility. Baraboo's is a little bit larger. It'd be the same size with the addition. And they have, I think, police and fire in that facility as well. So it's a large structure. We thought there would be an opportunity if this was a public building to have public restrooms in here that people could use when they visit the park or the natural area. And just to finish it off, there's shown about 140 parking stalls. So there's quite a few in that parking lot. And then again, wanting to make sure we show areas for new stormwater infiltration before it goes east and before it goes south into the existing ponds. And I think that covers the differences between the two concepts and kind of gives you an idea what fits. Again, this was a specific program that we were given to show what fits and let the community take it from there where they want to determine what to put on the site.
Okay, thank you. Elise, do you want to say anything else, or Mike Slavny?
Not at this time.
All
No.
right, so I'm sorry, what, Plan Commission members, anybody have any comments or questions? Village
I got
Board?
one.
I'm sorry, go ahead, John.
You had mentioned that there was we'd gone through the Civic Campus study a few years ago and came up with sort of a wants and needs from the community and wanted to sort of understand. We've got this study going on now. We had that study going on. Is there any work being done to sort of tie those things together? Because what we're talking about, or what we had talked about at the Civic Campus plan, was to sort of keep stuff downtown. And now the library has gone into a location that's not really downtown. It's a little bit off. And we've got a conceptual drawing that shows Village Hall even further away. Is there any thought as to sort of herd these cats a little bit and say, what do we want to do and how do we want to approach this thing? Is that making any sense?
Greg, can I address that, Greg?
Certainly, absolutely.
So John, we attempted over numerous years to try to find building sites for the senior center, the library, and the village hall downtown. We have reached out to BMO Harris again for like the second or third time, and we have just not been able to find the 3 sites for the buildings. And we just felt extending the village hall and that parking away and some of the park away and moving into a building that would be at capacity, we didn't think it made a lot of sense to put the village hall on Janesville Street. So we started looking for different sites, to be honest with you. And I just say one last thing. The plan is
go ahead.
Debate with you whether or not that's downtown or not, the site. I think it is downtown yet. So once the library moves, then the library building and the senior center building will be knocked down and a new senior center will be built on that lot. So we think we've got those 2 buildings taken care of. We're just trying to find a site for the village hall, and that's what we're trying to do with this. So I agree.
No, it's fine. What my question, observation, whatever. Do we have a lot of foot traffic to the village hall? I'm just curious.
Well, obviously not now with COVID.
No, certainly not. But in the past, I'm trying to.
It depends on the time of the year. You know, obviously for property tax time and elections and things like that. But I mean, not typically. No, it's gone down, I would say. And I would say we are really encouraging people to use our drop box. A lot of people are using the drop box in the Village Hall parking lot. Yeah.
Yeah, the reason I asked that question is that I realize that it'd still be inconvenience for, you know, if we went out to the west. But a lot of the people that commute down there don't walk, they probably drive or bicycle. And I don't know if that'd be that much of an inconvenience if we went to the west a little bit. Because like you said, you're kind of, I've read all of your studies here, and it's just, you know, downtown, there's just nothing good, if you want to call it that, that's going to give you a lot of flexibility for future, you know, to build Village Hall.
Right, I think it's.
Well, in 20, we reached out, I'm not going to say the property name owners, but we reached out to people around the Village Hall area, the building, and just nobody was interested in selling to us. We were trying to assemble a pretty big piece of property downtown for all of the 3 buildings, and it just didn't come together.
Yes, my question has more to do with, and I understand that, Mike, that makes sense.
Yeah.
My question is, was there a priority put onto the senior center being downtown versus out here and coupling it with elderly housing versus moving the Village Hall to that location? Or, you know, we're struggling with the library. Is there any tie together to keep it downtown in that location? And then, you know, what I'm saying?
I didn't answer your question. Sorry about that. That's a great question, because when we were looking at the library site on North Main Street, we first thought that's where the senior center could go, because it would be a smaller building. But Rachel, I have talked to Rachel, the senior center director, about this 4, 5, 6 times, and she feels strongly the senior center needs to remain on Park Street in its current location near this downtown senior housing. And that's kind of why we're going with that approach. I will say that if COVID wouldn't have happened, we had intended to hire a consultant and architect in 2020 to actually start looking at that site to make sure what we're thinking of doing makes sense. You know, getting rid of the village or the library and the senior center building and putting up a new senior center. But Rachel feels pretty strongly that that's where she wants the senior center, the new senior center to go, John.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
In the memo, John, you may have seen there was from the Civic Campus Plan a workshop that was done. There was 40 participants. I think it was largely, and maybe Mike could speak to this. I think it was largely downtown residents and business owners, maybe some board members as well. But this is a little hard to read, but it does sort of rank some of the facilities and in terms of how people feel about things being downtown. But this is also, you know, now 4 or 5 years old. It would be certainly interesting to see how opinions may have changed in that time. And the growth of the village has definitely been to the west. We have, you know, it's sort of, that park is becoming a little bit more of the geographic center of the village than it had been in the past. Not to say that it wouldn't be, you know, inconvenient for some people, but yeah, I agree with Mike. And also just trying to think about Village Hall as more than just Village Hall. Is it a, you know, sort of a community center with a, you know, room and a kitchen that could be rented out for wedding receptions or high school graduation parties, allowing the village to expand as we need to for staff. And also realizing that some of these other municipal buildings like the library and the senior center will have a lot of community meeting space. So the community room and the boardroom in Village Hall that, you know, pre-COVID were used a lot by community groups, we will still have some of those larger meeting areas in the downtown, regardless of where Village Hall ends up.
Okay. Anybody else in Plan Commission? How about Village Board?
I think there's a couple questions.
Okay.
Am I recognized?
You are recognized, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Snelly. During the overview, the consultant mentioned that there's a place for the village hall and that is comparable to the Baraboo Village Hall. How many square feet is that facility? Or
Yeah, the Baraboo I think is around 40 or so, at least in footprint. It's taller too, so it gives you an idea what fits on that.
okay. And then is there a possibility for restrooms on the, I believe it would be the north side of that lot?
Oh, on the north, about by the parking lot?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, there could be restrooms in that shelter or that trailhead.
Yeah, we have a porta potty located to the east and north, but I think if we're going to add more recreational facilities, especially all these playing fields, we need a modern, bigger restroom. So.
Yeah, Jerry, absolutely. It's been on our plan all along that we'd have that we need restrooms out at this site.
Okay.
And possibly even one on the north and one on the south, depending on what was configured to the south.
Very good. And then how was the number of parking stalls determined?
We did have discussion with staff about parking, and I think it was based on some events, and there's also parking along the street. We tried to break it up into two areas. I think we were trying to hit 200 for the park area plus street parking.
Yep.
And then for the village hall, we just sort of fit what fit on the site.
So what population did you use on the field to determine 200 stalls?
Trying to remember. We did have discussion at staff. I can't remember how we got to that number.
Jeff, I think we felt that with players and relatives, hitting between 40 and 50 spaces per field would be more than adequate and would allow some of the unused spaces to be used for general park purposes. You know, we've still got the conservation area and other park facilities in the area as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
I believe there's also overlap too with games when they're back to back. You have sort of two groups of people waiting to either currently using the field and then waiting to use the field. So there is some overlap in how these, game days and tournaments work.
And there'll also be spectators on nice summer nights. So those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from Village Board? Ms. Nelson, you sent a letter to Mr. Rao. Did you want to have some discussion? Teresa?
Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
I sent the letter to a number of board members and commission members, and I believe it's going to be part of the record for this meeting. So I don't want to kind of rehash everything that's in the letter. I thought I would use this time tonight to kind of keep it a little bit kind of bigger picture. But I wanted to speak to you tonight to ask you to protect the Oregon Conservancy. Now, there is no Oregon Conservancy, but there should be. The areas of Keller Alpine Meadows Park, Lerner Conservation Park, Dega Memorial Park, DiMaggio Park, and the potential future Westside Park are a connected ecosystem of wetlands and uplands, whitetails and redtails, monarchs and moths. They deserve the recognition of the value they collectively provide our community. Now, the village has many nice parks that provide spaces to play sports, play on a playground, or throw a Frisbee, but I think we have a really great opportunity here to foster something unique and special by choosing to restore instead of develop the Westside Park area. The village can make a commitment to environmental stewardship while reducing flooding, supporting pollinators, and preserving this natural retreat for park visitors. We have the opportunity to harness this potential, and it's just waiting for a coherent vision to transform this into a shining gem for our village. Thanks for the time tonight. I look forward to hearing how we can work together to acknowledge and enhance the value of this area, and that the value that it provides to the residents of Oregon and the surrounding communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Arlen?
Yes, thank you. This is Arlen Kai. As a member of the Oregon Rotary Club, we have been doing a prairie restoration for Lerner Park for over 20 years and have been expanding it every year as an educational opportunity and recreational opportunity for the community. We have been looking to keep this growing as a natural habitat, as well as a walking and passive park area. The Alpine Park, which you're now showing as playfields and as a developed village hall or housing, I think is not the best use for this central park, which is a wetland, and development of hard surface and active use areas around the western perimeter of this natural park, I believe would be in conflict with the uses, well, the natural, what's happening in the natural areas and the wetland areas. The dense construction to the west, also the parking lots and the runoffs are going to be, degrading, potentially degrading for the conservation park area. And I don't think is very appropriate for this. It would be much more appropriate to be expanding that conservation area all the way to Alpine Drive. You must be complimented as a village for the success of the Alpine Park. I don't believe I've driven by there that I have not seen people actively using those pathways, actively. And the number of people who are coming from and finding their way into Lerner Park, even if it's the pathways are quite difficult to get there, we are hoping that in the future that there will be better connections between these two parks. Do want to challenge the planners and the Plan Commission and the village to be, if you are going to be well, it'd still be best, and the people of Oregon still are supporting having a downtown development. It may, if that is proving to be impossible, going along CC, having something that is not a remote village hall, but something that's part of a mixed-use complex along CC would be much better than having this isolated building that has no connection to any of the other mixed uses, commercial, foot traffic. We cannot be just looking at the suburban auto mentality. We still need to be looking at how to enhance our foot traffic. So we should be challenging you to be looking at that. All of Lerner Park is a wetland. A good, very large piece of the Alpine Park, all of DiMaggio, is wetland. And it's just having a little bit of the high, dry prairie restoration and expand the passive parking, the walking, the picnic areas, things that would be more passive and less organized field would be better for this park. I think we've said enough.
Thank you, Arlen. Appreciate it. Again, this is just a discussion, conceptual. So, Mr. Grace, although you're a short timer, or Elise, I guess, where do we where's this thing going to go? We're going to look at this for the future. It's just something that's on the back burner, so to speak, or?
No, we have, like, we noted on the agenda, there's money in the 21 budget to hire a consultant to start continuing to work on this. And the new park board that the board just confirmed the other night will have their first meeting in March. So I would anticipate that the new park board, obviously diving into this sometime in 21 with the consultant.
Okay, all right.
And there's a lot I could say about how this park was formed after the 1999 flood, but I think that's left for a future meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And as this proceeds along or progresses along, there'll be plenty of, I'm sure,
all public meetings.
Observer, there'll be
Mm-hmm.
announcements of meetings, and you look at the website for the village.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating. Village board, are you going to leave us at this time? Or do you want to stay with us?
I guess I have one more question if I could before you move on, Greg. I apologize. Are you looking to get an expectation of a direction from the board and the plan commission on one of these two options, or is this just an informational thing?
Just informational thing at this point.
Thank you.
Sure, John.
All right. Any other questions? Any comments of anybody?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If village board members stay, do we get the planning pay for the evening?
Yes, you do. Yes.
Okay.
You do. Yes,
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Schnelly.
You're welcome, Mr. Trustee. Well, okay. Anyway, Jeannie, do you want to adjourn the meeting for the village board or not?
Sure. Mike, is that appropriate?
When we first prepared the agenda, we didn't have it on there. Then I realized that I'm not sure the entire board wants to stay for the whole meeting. So you can certainly adjourn, and then board members can then leave. Sure. Yep.
Yeah, let's do that.
We won't blame you.
All right. So village board members, does someone want to make a motion to adjourn the village board in this meeting?
I move to adjourn the village board.
All right. So
Second, Peterson.
Second by Peterson. Joy, did you get that? Gotcha. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Thanks, everybody.
I'm going to welcome you. You can all stay on because it's a pretty spirited meeting we're going to have.
Oh, there's always fascinating things at the planning commission level.
It is. Because you're going to do this anyway, Jeannie. It's your responsibility. So, yes. Okay. We'll move on to item 7B, which is a public hearing. Discuss and consider approval of conditional use permit submitted by the Wine Reserve LLC for indoor and outdoor commercial entertainment, 113 North Main Street. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. First item will be staff reports.
All right. I'll toggle over here. Hopefully you all got a chance to peruse this over the last week, but Steve and Todd, local Oregon residents, have been working on a concept for a wine bar, looking at a couple different options for locations within the village, and have found a place that they believe will work for the business at 113 North Main Street. This is the historic bank building that is owned by the Fields, and they're working on some restoration right now. You may have seen that over the last couple of months. But this space would have largely an indoor bar. It's kind of a unique concept where you receive a card and sort of self-serve wine system. But they're looking for both indoor serving of alcohol and then also an outdoor patio. And I'll scroll to the concept that shows a little bit of what the layout will look like. They have requested sidewalk seating, but after some discussion, we've decided that we're going to handle that separate from the conditional use permit, and we'll actually be sort of establishing a right-of-way permit process. So sidewalk seating can be handled separately from the conditional use permit as needed. So just focusing on the uses that are actually on the parcel here. I think the kind of main concern I had that I hope we could just have a little discussion on is mostly just around noise. Obviously there will be held to the noise ordinance and aren't looking to be open terribly late. This is kind of more of an upscale bar, so I think there's piano and jazz music and that kind of thing playing, so probably not anything too terribly loud, but we do have the Lakestone Jefferson Crossing apartments, kind of kitty corner from this alley, then also some apartments above. Those are, you know, in a commercial downtown area. So sort of comes with the territory, but we also want to make sure that those residents aren't, you know, disturbed more than can be expected to be. So that's kind of my main condition of approval or point of discussion. Otherwise, just noting outdoor seating will be handled separately. We'll need to comply with the noise ordinance. The fire department did make a request that any indoor outdoor heating device, so any outdoor fire pit or an indoor fireplace, something like that, would just need to be approved by the building and fire departments, and then any other conditions that the planning commission or board may have.
Okay, okay. Anybody else from staff? Petitioners, you gentlemen want to make any comments? I don't know if you're both on or not.
We are. This is Todd Malcook. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us tonight. In regards to the music, I did see that it said until 10 p.m. I don't think we'd ever see anything past 7 or 8 for any music outside. We would end it, usually it starts around 5 in the afternoon, and it would be 2 or 3 hours worth.
Okay. Well, at this point, it's still, you know, it is part of the request, so we'll leave the times on if it's okay to you.
Okay.
And if we have an issue, then Plan Commission can discuss it, and then we can discuss it with you if we have to change it. So.
Okay.
All right. So any other comments about it? We've seen you before, so. Anything? Nothing?
No, I think if anyone has questions, we can answer it, but.
Right. Okay. Public comments. Anybody in the public have any comments or questions about this development or business? It's going fast. Okay. Plan Commission. Anybody?
I got a couple of questions. I think that this is a nice project, a nice use for the space, and I'm hopeful that you're successful. It's outside of our purview, but you might want to make sure that you are okay with your capacity for bathrooms with the number of people that you're going to have in here. Based on what I'm looking at, it looks like you might be light. So especially for ADA bathrooms. So just to let you know. And the other thing is, I'm not, the railing itself, what are you planning for the railing on the outdoor area in the back patio?
We've actually been working with a landscape designer on what that's going to look like. And like where the cursor is right now, there's actually a berm coming from the adjacent property. And so we're thinking that that area would be like just like a knee wall, retaining wall that would, you know, be the dirt and soil on to the south, and then just a wall, maybe like at seat height along that side. And then towards the back, we continue it around towards the back and have a gate in the center. And then on the north side, that's kind of like intended to be a privacy fence, because that's the side where we do have the residents over there. So that was an accommodation for them.
So we'll need to make sure that you're going to be serving alcohol out there. Elise, is there any restrictions or requirements for a fence height or anything like that for serving of alcohol in an outdoor area?
Mike Slavey, I know we talked about this last week. There is a screening requirement. It's not necessarily about alcohol, but just about outdoor commercial entertainment in general. And I believe Mike Slavey felt that the walls that were proposed were enough to sort of contain the use, and they are the applicants are going to be at the village board meeting on Monday for their liquor license. So this is all will be reviewed and hopefully approved as part of their premises description too.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else from Plan Commission? Any other comments? Anybody? Okay, we're going to close the hearing then, and we're going to move on to a discussion. Policy recommendation. Plan Commission members, again, this is difficult to do necessarily read your faces in a virtual here, but you know, we've seen this before. It's a great, I agree with John. It's a nice proposal for downtown. It'll be interesting to have, and I hope you guys do well with it. So,
Thank you.
Go ahead. Somebody to say something, John, or no? I guess.
Greg,
Okay.
can I make a comment? I'm sorry, I didn't get to my mute before when you were asking.
Okay, Patrick, go ahead.
I would echo John's sentiment. I think this is a nice potential addition to the downtown. The only thing, and I realize it's not for our discussion, but the sidewalk seating does concern me. As somebody that walks by there frequently, there is not a lot of room. And the question I have is, if it's by permit through the village, what control do you have if it turns out to not be a good scenario?
Yeah, Patrick, we can revoke that permit at any time. It'll be a right-of-way, it'll be a use of right-of-way permit. I think I've talked to Elise about this a few times, and you know, it's a narrow area. And if you look at I don't foresee seating as you see out in front of, say, Sunny's, where we have tables and things sticking out 9-10 feet. We got a large area over there, which is nice for their use. It would be more like a 2-person, 2-chair outside seating table type of thing.
Also, what the Firefly has.
Yeah, a lot like what's out in front of the Firefly.
Yeah, I think when we develop the right-of-way permit, and I'm looking at examples of nearby communities, they have this in place. Also, this could be used for things like sidewalk sales and other temporary uses, so we can repurpose this for pods or other things that may come up. Like for sidewalks, we'll want to make sure that we have probably at least a 4-foot clear path around tables. So I know on this side of this sidewalk, there is a bike rack that's sort of permanently installed into the sidewalk. We have a planter, we have a sign. So that's why we want to kind of have a permit that looks at each individual property or right-of-way area kind of in its own merits and situations. So it's not a standard review with each different circumstance.
Okay. That take care of it, Patrick?
Yeah, and I mean, for the applicant's sake, I mean, the image I got as you were talking is the potential to open up that facade with your window treatment. So that might be something to think about. You see a lot of bars where they can open up kind of have a moving window. So the interior becomes kind of part of the outside. So I just wanted to mention that comment. But overall, I support the proposal, and I think it'll be a good thing.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else have questions or comments? Move on then. We need a motion to recommend the village board approval of the conditional use permit submitted by the Wine Reserve LLC for indoor and outdoor commercial entertainment, 113 North Main Street.
So moved, Molzon.
Second, Bano.
Second, Bano. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
You bet. Okay, we'll move on to item 7C, discussion policy recommendation of village board certified survey map for 917, 919, 947, 957 Janesville Street, which is Lakestone Properties, affordable multifamily housing project. Okay.
All right, so this item is obviously closely tied to 7D, the SIP for Lakestone, but just as a separate approval. This CSM, we've been anticipating. The property is currently made up of 3 different parcels, and the CSM proposes to rearrange them into 2 different parcels. As we've discussed before, the main access point for this site is going to be right at Wolf Street and Janesville Street. That will be a four-way intersection. Obviously, there's already stoplights there, so the stoplight in the south-facing direction will be added for the people exiting the site for both the commercial and the residential use. The site also will have some cross easements that we're working on, and the applicant is working on, so that there's shared access to both the commercial site, whatever that may end up being developed as, and the residential site. There is an access point, if you may remember, off to Perry Parkway through the multifamily site. We do have a couple of comments from our village engineer that are still outstanding, pretty minor. So I want to make sure that before, final version is recorded at the county, that we do get a final approval letter from our village engineer, and then we do receive those cross easements to ensure access to both lots. Obviously, this will be sort of tied to the SIP, so there's a condition of approval for the SIP that the CSM be approved, but this can certainly be done ahead of time. So that's kind of where the CSM stands. I don't know if Jeff had any other comments or concerns that I didn't capture.
Okay.
I think that sums it up really well.
All right. Jeff, Mr. Rao, you have any, and I'll start off first. In the past, there are a number of general comments from our village engineer. And, they're I shouldn't say minor, they're as a contractor, they're picky. Okay. But,
right. We pay them to be picky.
I understand that. So a retired contractor. Are these substantial enough that there's any reason why we could not proceed with a certified survey map?
No, there's nothing here that's overly concerning at all. And I think it's just cleanup stuff. So I think it would just, as long as you make it, I think per Elise has a recommendation to approve to accommodate any other, let's see, final approval letter from village engineer. And that's pretty standard.
Right.
And it was mostly just a timing issue on our end by the time we received the comment letter back from the
correct. I realized that
they didn't get the time to provide it.
Milky's letter of January 5th, I'm sure they didn't get communicated to the people, the property owners that quickly. So.
And this CSM does a nice job. I mean, keep in mind, there's several lots that are down on the southeast corner there that are kind of remnant homes and multifamily or a fourplex and that type of stuff. And this is going to clean that all up.
Okay. Plan Commission, anybody have any concerns? Any discussion, comments? None? Okay, then we need a motion to recommend the village board approve a certified survey map for 917, 919, 947, 957 Janesville Street, Lakestone Properties, with the recommendations forwarded by our village planning and zoning administrator.
So moved, Pino.
Second, Mar.
Second, Mar, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. When do we, at least you have any, or even Jeff, any idea when we'd have that cleaned up? I guess that has to come with the applicant, they'll tell you, but.
Right, yeah, that likely in the next couple of weeks, and then I imagine we'd probably have the final version, in front of the village board, hopefully in February.
Let's see, these we should shoot to have it cleaned up for the.
All right, no problem. Good, thank you. Just a quick question. Okay, we'll move on to item 7D, which is discussion, possible recommendation of the village board, this SIP plan for the same property at Janesville Street from Lakestone Properties, affordable multifamily housing project. Staff comments, Elise.
All right, so this should look fairly familiar. We've seen this many times over the last 8 or 9 months here. Just a couple of changes to point out that have been made since the last time you saw this with the GDP in November, they did show the concept map, but there was a slight relocation of buildings 1 and 2, which are on the west side of the property or the top of the page as we see it. There was a ATC utility easement that's being expanded there, so they did need to move those buildings slightly to the east by a couple of feet. There was also a slight relocation of building 3 to the south, so towards Janesville Street, to allow some space between the detention pond and the building, just with that pond either getting resized or moved around slightly. And then they also did add some stone accents to the building entrance as requested by the Planning Commission to have some kind of architectural, features there. So this is consistent with the GDP. Just to remind everyone, there were some comments about the height of the building. One of the GDP flexibilities that was granted was a flexibility for maximum of 48 feet for the proposed multifamily buildings. I believe the buildings are a few feet shy of that, around 45 or 46 feet. MR8 typically has a 35-foot maximum, but that flexibility was granted as part of the GDP. So just to keep in mind as we get into some of the specific comments from some neighbors. So I do still have a couple of things outstanding for the applicant that they're aware of to clean up and to submit to us as they're able. The conditions of approval, we still need to see the either indoor and or outdoor bike parking at a total of 10% of the total number of vehicle parking spaces. A photometric plan, the lighting engineers have not had time yet to sort of fully develop that. We've approved other site plans with just allowing staff approval of the photometric plan, so that's pretty consistent and fairly minor. The village engineer does have several pages of comments, and again, it was a timing issue. This is a big SIP, and I know the applicants already started to work on the revision to incorporate the village engineer comments. They just weren't able to get that into the packet before on last Friday when this got out. The CSM, again, will need staff and village engineer approval before this can be fully in place. Cross easements, they have been in communication for several months with the fire chief and have done a great job to incorporate the comments, the specific comments that they have. So at this point with the plan, the fire department is comfortable with how things are laid out and where different standpipes are located. We'll also, probably have some further questions and just want to keep our village engineer and public works director engaged with the stormwater management plan and then any other conditions that you all may have. And this is just an overview. There are a couple pages of the comments from the village engineer. Again, lots of small detail, picky type comments, but good catches by the village engineer. So I'll go ahead and just scroll to the main map, but that concludes my comments.
Okay. Jeff Brower, you have any comments at all?
No, they're about where they need to be. I mean, obviously, we will still have final plan review when they complete all of the utilities and everything like that. We still have the easements to be able to look at to make sure that the utilities are put in easements and that everything exists with that. Most of the stuff is just making sure that they comply with our standard details and standard that we want for roadway connections and sidewalk connections and that type of thing.
Oh, well, and I was going to maybe wait till later on until we have everybody just finish discussing as long as we're at this point. We've got sheet C2 through C4. There's a number of questions and clarifications that they're asking for the village engineer.
Which one, Greg?
I'm sorry, sheets. If you look on Rupert Milky's, the second page, they've got drawing numbers, C-2 through C-4. There's quite a list.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Which I think is kind of a lot, the best way to put it. It's, I seem that we like to see sometimes a little more, fewer clarifications, excuse me. We like to see this kind of cleaned up. And I understand because of the timing, and I get that where we are with it right now. And I'm not sure the applicant, how much of a hurry they're in. But again,
under a specific implementation plan, I'd be looking at, the comments here are, if you're dealing, okay, let's just pull out a few of these.
Yeah.
Show where existing traffic lights are to be relocated. They're still working on that final design. I would not expect that in an SIP. Yellow truncated domes, those are a requirement. The radii in the drive lane should be minimum 26 feet for emergency vehicles. That's standard stuff that's going to come out and be required as part of a design anyways. This is always that tough thing. We ask our engineers to be very, very detailed.
Right.
And so they develop a list like this that looks like it's not ready. But a lot of these are very minor items that I'm happy they are picking up, because, these are things that, our engineers will make sure and go through in the final design that they accommodate, but they don't change the overall character or layout or implementation plan, if that's what we're using here, of the development.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would also note that some of their comments are focused on that convenience store that's sort of sketched out as a conceptual, and just to remind the planning commission and those on the call, that's just sort of there as a placeholder. The applicants don't have a user for that site right now, but that was one potential development. They wanted to see, how traffic would flow, how it might fit. So any, comments about the parking lot, driveway entrance, that would all be reviewed with a, like maybe a conditional use permit, but definitely a site plan when there's a specific user in place for that site. I think at this point, those houses would remain until there's a user for that commercial site.
I see. Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody from Plan Commission have any questions at this point so far? Petitioner, you have any comments? I'm sure you want to make some comment here.
Brett and Brian.
Yeah, Brett and Brian, you guys are on if you're here.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I think I agree with Elise and Jeff. There's a lot of these things on here. We met with our team to review the letter, and we can get our plans updated pretty quickly on that and turned around, probably within the next week or two. So nothing in there really surprised us or gave us concern. It's just a matter of getting the details finalized and finishing things up. So, whether it's a approval with condition, I know there's we're going to review or listen to some other comments, and I can respond to those as well after. So we can follow up after that if you like.
Okay, Mr. Gleaner, are you online?
I am.
All right. I suspect you want to, and the reason I know you want to have some comments, there might be somebody else in the audience, but you can go ahead with your comments, sir.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Good evening. My name is Joe Galena, and I'm the CEO and the owner of the Galena Companies. I'm also the owner of Pine Cove Apartments. We're very thankful to have the opportunity to come before you tonight regarding Lakestone Properties SIP. Just a little background on the Galena Companies. We specialize in developing and operating apartment communities. Over the last 40 years, we've constructed and operated over 3,400 apartments. Our apartment communities range in size from 75 units to 340 units, located in Wisconsin, Illinois, and Florida. In 1990, we developed Pine Cove Apartments, which is located immediately to the east of the Lakestone Properties partial. We still own and operate Pine Cove Apartments today. We carefully put our concerns in writing regarding the SIP that is before you tonight, which has a lot of information. Tonight, we primarily want to focus on the location of the Lakestone Properties Building Number 3. and what we believe the negative impact it will have on both the Lakestone and the Pine Cove apartment communities. We're happy to answer any question regarding our analysis of the SIP. At this time, I'll turn our presentation over to Kurt Keller of Plunkett Ratius Architects.
Thank you, Mr. Galena. What I'd like to do is to spend the presentation in two parts. You have a report. We're not going to go through that report. It's broken down into three parts. It deals with questions on the International Fire Code 2015 edition. Your fire chief can look at that and make a determination. We also mention a number of items in our report that have to do with your zoning and the exemptions that were requested. I think that with the report that Ms. Cruz gave tonight, many of those were talked about, but there are a few other odds and ends we kindly ask you to look at. And then finally, I give some comments as a planner. Since I have never had a chance to be in front of you before, my introduction is that I've been a registered architect for 35 years. And I'm also an adjunct professor in civil engineering at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, teaching in the engineering school, specifically in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, where I work with advanced students on planning and coordination of construction. So planning's been a real specialty for me. And I also serve on several area boards, development boards for office parks, and I'm the architect, review architect for the Catholic Diocese of Madison with their 140 properties. What I would like to do is to spend the bulk of the time this evening going through several of these images that we've put together and describe a couple points. You see in the upper right hand, you see an outline of the existing Pine Cove building. And this is taken right from the topographic information that was provided by the applicant that shows you're basically pretty tight in there, and you have a drainage swale that I ask the city engineers to look at to make certain that the correct numbers for the storm years, if they're 10 or 50 or 100 years, that is met. There's a great concern about looking out at this building from Pine Cove, and basically it looks to be, you know, it's a 4 to 5 story feeling looking out from it. The bottom elevation, it's already been spoken to tonight that it's been granted in the GDP for the height change, but you're seeing an elevation that is very long. And I ask you to reconsider in your SIP here that this mass in its form is under your MR8 zoning, you have specific language in there that deals with fitting into a neighborhood, to fitting into an environment. This is a suburban area. This is not an urban site. Pine Cove has established it, the neighborhood, the businesses around it. That's the very nature of it. So I offer this as some information for consideration. And Ms. Cruz, if you wouldn't mind, if you could please go to the next image. So we did a little photo work and offer this for consideration out of the building, which is called 958. It's the vision cone, the nice little red cones that are in the bottom area there. That's a little over 100 feet, 115-ish feet there. And you're actually looking right out of the windows at the height. Those were actual photos taken. And we closely approximated what the view is. And you can feel there's a reasonable distance there. You can feel that you're in a residential, I'm in a comfortable living environment. You switch over to the right-hand view and you're at the 922 building, and that's what 60 feet looks at like out of the first floor, which is the lower right image. You're basically looking at the lower level of the building. We weren't able to draw in the drainage swale that goes down another 7-8 feet there, but you're looking at about a 5.5 foot concrete masonry unit wall, and you're looking, you know, basically right across at that. And then the upper picture is you're from the second floor of Pine Cove, you are looking directly into the first floor. So it is a direct back and forth across the entire elevation between the two developments, and feel that it doesn't provide the best design service to both the developments. So what we're specifically speaking about, as was mentioned at the outset, is looking for some accommodation in the design intent of how building number 3 is laid out. Now, we don't like to come with just saying, gee, you have a problem, go fix it. Would like to, I know Mr. Galena has previously reached out to the development team and has not had successful ability to discuss. So I offer, if Ms. Cruz, if you could switch to the next slide. An idea for your consideration, and for something that tries to balance the design, not trying to take over what is the requirements of the development team's architects and planners, but pointing out that there might be some different solutions here that could be looked at. One is pulling back some size of building number 3. The distance that we show between the 922 building and what's called building number 3, it's about 84, 85 feet. So you can kind of, if you remember that last picture looking out of the 958, it's getting to be a reasonable distance, and you're not looking at the long facade of the building from neighbor to neighbor in that 60-foot range. You also have the potential here of a reference back to the International Fire Code that there's potential for good circulation in a parking lot. And we're going to be talking in a minute about a green space, specifically play areas and things like that, and the continuity of green space and some changes that have occurred that affect it. And this allows not only that there is a building separation, but there's also a green space separation that is usable green space. This is a development that everything I'm looking at, it looks like it is meant for families. And there's still, even though the convenience store and the gas station and the car wash to the left of this design looks pretty well developed, because there's a very strong circulation and understanding of everything down to where the trash cans are going in the service aisles. It looks very developed and understood of what the intent is to be there. And that is having the effect of crowding on the site. And it's pushing some of the decisions that were made. And we ask for consideration of that. We think that there is some adjustment that could be made to either buildings number 1 or 2 to add possibly up to 6 units per building, and proposing a slight reduction in the discussion here to building number 3 to better fit into the site. Ms. Cruz, did you receive the later drawings that Mr. Galena forwarded this afternoon? Yes, please, and thank you. I'm going to finish up here and turn back to Mr. Galena, surrender the rest of the time to him. But I wanted to put up here, this was the image on the left, and we tried to get these fairly close to scale. They're not right. This was published out of the Observer from July of a very well laid out plan that showed a nice family development. Green space, contiguous green space, separation of buildings, a roadway path that is not a dogleg pipe shooting straight through the property. It is purposely moves in various directions to control traffic flow. And you see the very marked difference in between the site that is meant for the retail development along the street on the left-hand side versus the design that is currently proposed on the right-hand side. So we also want to show just how the green space, so we colored in some green space to how we understood, and the darker green is meant to show the major areas of detention, the steeper parts of the slope. There are rock retaining walls and things that make it a little bit of a challenge to walk around some of the buildings. But you see that there's not a contiguous green space. There's an island in the middle, and it's really the only play area in the development. And children have to cross parking lots of roads. There's no other way to really access that area. It's a challenge. And it's very different from the design on the right. So with that green space discussion, I'm going to turn it back to Mr. Galena and ask him for any final comments, and I'll certainly be available for any questions. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Kirk. I guess my comment is I've been developing and operating apartments for 40 years. We've probably developed over 45 different apartment communities. And our communities have been very successful for all the reasons Kirk just walked you through on the original concept. It gives you a reason to have longevity with the tenants that live there, the additional open space, the open green space, the usable green space. I believe the July design had a clubhouse, an amenity center, a gazebo over potentially a pond, ample parking, a very comfortable area to walk through the community. You know, people move out of communities over time because they get tired of things. They get tired of fighting traffic. They get tired of trying to find a place to park. They get tired of not having privacy. As I said, we've developed many, many communities, and the concept plan in the July Observer, to me, would be a very, very successful apartment community, in my opinion. Elise, can we have the last slide? So if building 3 gets built at its current location, this is the view out of the first floor of 922. You're looking directly at a structure. When you consider the grades, that structure is maybe 4 or 5 feet taller than where you are in your living room. That building is going to block sunlight. It's going to create light pollution. You'll have shade during the day. And I just asked every board member, could you imagine this structure built in your backyard? Would this create privacy issues for you? And would you be comfortable living in your house with that in your backyard? As Kurt mentioned earlier, this is a suburban location. Our customers at Pine Cove live at Pine Cove because it's a suburban location. It's not an urban location. And we believe the 60 feet is just way too close for this use. As I've mentioned in all my letters, we support the project. We just think the location of building 3 would not help both communities. And if it could be relocated, it would be a big improvement. Thank you for hearing us.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Applicant, well, you have some comments back, don't you?
Yeah, that'd be great. We did, so again, we appreciate the comments from Mr. Galena and Mr. Keller on this. Obviously, they both have been doing this for a long time, so we want to take that feedback in strong consideration. But there's also a lot of concerns we have with what they just said. So I don't know if you at least want to go to actually the plan that they put together. We can chat about that first.
Their alternative site plan.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Just
the one that they were the one that they're working on.
Well,
get back to that here.
The latest ones or the
Yeah, that one's good. Yep. So we met with our team the other day once we saw this and wanted to obviously provide some feedback. And I'll get to the building 4 versus 3, but we had lots of discussion with Plan Commission, with Village Board. Why the initial 4 building plan that was put together did not work. There was a number of reasons on that. I'd rather not go into that again. If we need to, we can, and we can go on that plan and point out some reasons. But it was a plan that was put together prior to engineering, looking at it, prior to WIDA applications, prior to a lot of stuff happening. And there was a lot of changes that needed to happen to it. So, but I'm happy to discuss that plan versus this one after we make some comments here. So the changes that they showed, flipping building 3 kind of the way they did causes some challenges on this development. I believe it kind of isolates this building from the rest of the development. The way we had it they're all opened up to each other. The green space is in the middle. Mr. Keller had pointed out the green space was in a good spot. I think it's in a great spot in the center of the development. You have access from a lot of points. If you look at the sidewalks on there, of course you have to cross parking, but there's islands with sidewalks in them, all leading to the green space. There is also some additional green space, common space to the north by the retention pond, but that middle green space I think is key for the development. I think having that there and the circulation and flow that we have works much better than what they're proposing here. I think it visually closes down the site. Again, as you're coming where they say the main site circulation down that road, having building 3 and building 1 right there, I think that closes down the site, where building 3, the way we have it, just creates a nice flow opening through the development through to Perry Street. There's some engineering issues with what they're proposing for building 1, removing that drive access. That does not work. We've addressed that a couple times, just with grading issues. We'd have to raise building 1 significantly if we were to do what they have proposed here. So it just doesn't work. It's very challenging. And then we lose 6 units on this, which puts a big financial restraint on our WIDA application. So we don't feel as a team, obviously we put this together, spent a lot of time on it. A lot of people have looked at this, that 60 feet is too close for apartment buildings. If you look at the 922 building of the Galena Company, there are some units that look at that, but that's a 22 unit building. I would say half of the back side look at it. So that could be 2 to 4 units. So to me, that's not substantial. Plus, I think 60 feet it happens all the time with apartments, and it's a reasonable distance. So my feedback on that is there. However, we want to be good neighbors. We continue to try to make changes where people ask us to make changes to be better developers, better neighbors, better for the community. We've done that throughout all of our. We met with, again, our engineer, our architect, and we can move building 3. We will agree to move building 3 10 feet to the west, so further away from the lot line by 10 feet. We're going to lose a little bit of parking. We'd still be above code, but we're willing to do that. So I think that's, hopefully everybody sees that as a good faith effort at this point and helping reduce any concern that they have. But that's really, I know our architect is on, Brian Stoddard, Brian Qualm's on as well, but if there's any other questions about that or feedback, I'm happy to answer.
All right, thank you, Brett. Plan Commission members. Any comments? It's kind of up your alley, John. You want to take a look at it?
Are we closing the public hearing, or are we?
It's not a public hearing.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, it's not a public hearing.
You're right. Sorry, public comments. I got my public hearing mixed up.
Okay.
I've taken a look at this, and we've obviously seen this many times in the past. I think that the site plan that has come up is a good one. As far as if we want to start with the concerns of Mr. Galena and his architect, it seems the fire department access and those items are outside of sort of what we typically look at. We leave that up to the fire department itself and the building inspection department. So while I appreciate their work, the building inspection and the fire department have the ultimate call and can make flexibilities with that. As far as the proximity to the other buildings, I just checked, and granted, this is a small scale thing, but the Galena companies, the Pine Cone project has 2 buildings that are within almost 60 feet of each other themselves. If you take a look at the corner of, I don't know the addresses of the building, but the close building to building 3, that one, there's a building that's just to the right. The corner of that building to this building is, well, close to 60 feet to it itself. And I wasn't too concerned about the proximity. I get worried when buildings, 10 feet in architecture terms is sort of that magic number for opening requirements. So you're far enough distance away from the property line to give a suburban feel, and provide enough openings and balconies for this apartment building. And subjectively, if it's a concern, there are still 30 feet on, I believe, on the pine cone lot for some landscaping to be installed. And I'm sure that we could probably ask Lakestone if they would be interested in possibly doing some additional landscaping on that side as well, to soften maybe some of those walls or something like that.
Toggle to the landscaping plan, because I do think
there's a couple of trees over there, but there wasn't a whole lot. So, you know, maybe some of the trees that are along the drive aisle that goes through the property itself could be repositioned to help take care of some of that. I am not comfortable like with the gas station itself, and I know that it's not part of this development, so I am just washing that off. We've talked about a couple of times why the drive aisles can't be joined between 1 and 2. And it is what it is. That site falls off pretty hard on that side. I don't know. There's some good information in the presentation that was made. A lot of it, in my opinion, is just subjective. So I think that we have a good quality project here, and it is it perfect? No, but it is a good project and it meets a need that the village has. And I am in support of it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in Plan Commission?
Can we respond to a
Pardon
comment? Am I able to respond to a comment?
Absolutely.
I guess, I don't know John's last name,
Mr. Bino, John Bino.
The board member. When you look at our 922 building to the building to the north, you're looking at the end of the building, not the side of the building. So you're not looking at this big wide mass of a building. You're only looking at the end. And I think that makes a big difference when you look at 60 feet.
In your opinion, that is fair.
If you turn building 3, so we're only looking at the end, that would work for us.
Mr. Galena, could I please add on to your commentary, please?
Sure. Thank
This is
you.
Kirk Keller again. If you could, Ms. Cruz, if you could go back to the sketch idea that we put together, the one with the, thank you, that one. There was comments made about that this idea closed down the site, and I find that a little bit of a misleading comment to make to this group. We're looking and requesting, and I completely agree with Mr. Galena that we're looking at, if we look at an end of a building, there's fewer windows there. Porches look out in opposite directions, not towards each other. But between buildings 1 and 3 in this layout, and I haven't moved the building, the 10 feet that was discussed, there's over 100 feet between buildings 1 and number 3 here. And the comments made that we're closing down the site too much, but yet it's okay to have it to an adjoining property into a much lesser number. I wanted to make that clarification. Thank you.
All right. Lakestone has offered to move that building to the west 10 feet. And again, I hate to put you on the spot, John, but again, as an architect, you know, that it moves it quite a bit. I'm looking at this, and I do look at the property. Let me look here at the number 922. You're right. There's probably what 3-4 apartments that'll be directly affected, if you want to call it that. That would be facing the back of that, or facing that the L-shaped building on the Lakestone property. But the rest of the building would not. Right. So we're affecting the view of probably 3 occupants. Or 3.
There's a total of 4 at least.
4, okay. Brett, do you have any other comments about it?
No, I continue to think that, I mean, I appreciate again their comments. I don't think I have it. I think the 10 feet, moving it 10 feet gives, again, I'm fine with, of course, I'm fine with the 60 feet. I think the 60 feet is enough. I think it doesn't affect a lot of the building, but again, that's me, that I haven't owned the building for 20 years. I understand that they don't want anything built there really. But even turning the building, then you'd be looking at a parking lot with a bunch of parking lights. So I don't know. Again, it's not perfect, but I think this plan works well. If they want to take us up on the 10 feet, again, we're happy to do it. We lose some parking, but I think it's a very good faith effort to try to work this out.
Okay. All right, so we've had both property owners discuss this. Anybody, plan commission, anybody else? Pat, you have any comments? Larry?
I do, but I saw Mike Slavny raising his hand, so.
Oh, how did you just see his raise his hand? Okay. Mike, did you want to make a comment, Mr. Slavny?
I do. I agree with Mr. Galena and with Lakestone comments. I think they're both right. To me, what was striking about the photos that were taken from the existing apartments was the lack of landscaping. And of course, there's no need to really landscape to a vacant site. One thing that I think could be a very positive outcome, maybe the most positive outcome of sliding the building west 10 feet, is that could provide a level platform for planting evergreens that'll grow big. So hemlock, white pine, things with real mass and height to them. It's a long-term investment, but I think that would make a big difference. And having that extra 10 feet would allow some sort of interruption in the slope along the east side of building 3 at some point in that setback to provide for a wider, flatter area so trees of that size could really get established over the long run. And I just planted a couple hemlock in my yard, and I've got an existing one that's 60 years old, and I've got a white pine that's 60 years old that was planted. And, they're park specimen trees. So I've seen what time can do. And, within 3 or 4 years, they start really taking off vertically. So, the best recommendation I think I could offer is getting more large-scale evergreen along the common lot line at some point where it could be made flatter, and invest, $4,000 or $5,000 in good quality trees and load up that area between the two buildings.
All right. And you're suggesting that mostly occur on the Lakestone property?
I am, and I'm suggesting that because if the building is going to be slid, there'll be the ability to provide a flatter area somewhere on the Lakestone property on the east side of that building.
Okay, Brett, you have any comments to that?
We'd be open to looking at that for sure. We can talk to our landscape architect, and I have not looked at that backside. It sounds like you guys did a little bit more, and there wasn't much back there, at least. No. So we can certainly look at that and add some larger evergreens.
I've been there twice.
Oh, no, sorry, not right now, but in the actual, some of the additional. Oh, okay, I see right now.
Yeah, I think there's just maybe four tree or tree and some bushes back there. So
yeah, we can certainly add some more. I think that's a good idea.
I think otherwise we're sitting at somewhat of an impasse. And Mike, thank you for your comments. That would be that would probably be helpful. I don't know how Mr. McGlena, if that would help. your feelings about this, but we are in a situation where these guys have addressed our concerns and have met our requirements.
I guess my comment is I attempted to bring this before the Plan Commission and the board during the GDP process. Wrote a couple letters. I was told that my concerns should only come up in the SIP process. That's why I'm here tonight.
Okay.
I would have been in here earlier if I could have. I don't want to suggest the village didn't let me speak, but I was directed only to talk and present my concerns through the SIP process. But I did notify the village of my concerns. The landscape, moving the building, adding the trees will definitely help first floor. It'll help, more screening will help. I'm not sure what it does to the second and third floor of the building 3 as far as the visually towering over Pine Cove. My other comment, going back to the conceptual plan we presented, screening can very nicely control headlights for parking. And the conceptual plan created probably almost as much green space as the current design, plus it creates green space between building 3 and the future use of what is currently called a C-store. I just wanted to make those comments. I think I still feel that the initial design in July is better. And I think the design we propose would be better. And I appreciate the comments, but that's just our position, I guess.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Plan Commission, we have any more comment? We got to get to a point here where we have to decide, gentlemen and ladies.
Greg, I didn't know if there was anyone else from the public that wanted to speak
Well,
to that. I know it's not a public hearing, but.
Yeah, I opened it up. If there's anybody else, I know Mr. Gleeman was there, and I asked if there's anybody else out there in the public. We did get a letter, did we not? Yes.
Right, from
Claris.
Miss Dewey. Mm-hmm.
Is Miss Dewey on the line? If she is, I apologize, but no.
Everybody, I think she is. I'm not sure if she wanted to speak.
I'd be happy to reach out to her if she wants to reach out to me directly. I do have answers to all of her questions. So unless you want me to go through that now, we can do that too.
I don't think we need to know if whether or not gas, electricity, and water be included in the rent. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about here. So
maybe at least you can just put us together on exchange contact information, and then I can answer those questions to her personally.
I think she'd appreciate that.
Yes. Sure.
I know she's also on our council for the aging in the community, so I assume she's likely passing some of that information back to the senior center and some of their networks too.
Good. Okay, Plan Commission. Anybody else? Anybody else want any comments? Plan Commission members, anybody else have any comments?
This Larry here. I go along with what Mike Slavny suggested. I think we're working in a tight space there, and I'm glad that we're having this space developed. It's been in need of being developed and for some time, and getting it worked out in a tight area with a lot of traffic coming from all kinds of directions here. So I'd be willing to say that we need a little compromising, and I think that's what Mike's suggestion does.
Okay.
I agree with Larry, and I thank Mike for successfully articulating exactly what I was thinking about the landscaping. And then the applicant's willingness to move that building. It's not ideal, but I think it's a reasonable solution to this site. And as Larry said, it's nice to see this property developed.
We've been talking about this property since I've been on the Plan Commission. It's over 30 years ago. So,
Oh, that's a long time.
no kidding.
Greg, are you for a motion?
I think we are prepared for motion. Yes.
All right. I would
And-
make a motion to recommend to the village board that we approve the specific implementation plan for 917, 919, 947, 957 Janesville Street, the Lake Storm Properties Affordable Multi-Family Housing Project, and then include the village planner's recommendations in that motion.
Which essentially is the moving of the property line, the building, right? And the
Landscaping.
and all the plantings, et cetera.
Yes.
Landscaping. All right. That just clarifies. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second by Bano.
We have a second. Okay, is there any discussion? Now, we will be looking at site approval and other items yet in the future, correct?
This functions as the site plan approval for planned development. But staff would be reviewing, if you're approving of this with these conditions of approval, bike parking, lighting, changes to the landscaping plan. We can certainly bring those back to just share with you to keep you informed as the development continues. But this would be the final approval beyond building permits. And
all right, so we have a motion and we have a second, and we have any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being involved in this and contributing to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to item 7E, discussion and possible approval of the site plan for Willy Enterprises, Cusik Parkway. And Elise, again, I'm sorry if you would share with us.
certainly. All right. So we did discuss this site back in October. This is Willy Enterprises over on 748 Cusik Parkway. At the time, Brad was requesting a small salt storage shed, as well as we had a discussion about fence height and fence material. He, since that time, has determined he does not want to have that salt storage shed on the site, and the structure was removed a couple weeks into October. He did plant the honey locust tree, which was the final requirement for his original landscaping plan. The fencing contractor was not able to install anything until coming up this spring, and just with that work sort of being put on hold, Brad had a chance to sort of reevaluate the area in the back of his property and does have quite a number of vehicles. Thankfully, his business is doing well. He also has some vehicles that, are waiting for owners to pick it up after work has been done, and wants to keep those vehicles off the street as much as possible. So he proposed just to slightly expand the fenced-in area in the rear of the site from about 22,000 square feet to about 30,000 square feet. And this would be the 8-foot chain link fence that has slats to match the color of the building, as we discussed back in October. The surface of this area is crushed asphalt, so it would not be striped, but a sort of conceptual parking lot layout was included here. Jeff Greeners is architect here, so he drew this up for us, and just to give a sense of how the site would flow back here and where vehicles would be parked. But pretty simple expansion. This is all within his property, no issues with setbacks or concerns from my end.
And yeah, it fits in there, and he's done a lot of things that we've asked, and nice growing business. So they recommend approval. So do we have a motion to approve the revised site layout?
Move to approve, Molzon.
Thank you, Bano.
Bano second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Okay. Move on to item 7F. This is discussion, possible recommendation to village board lot 0 or 0 lot line certified survey map for lot 105 Ithaca Court. We'll take each one of these individually, obviously.
I just prepare one memo for F through H, just for brevity.
I'll stay for it. I think didn't I thought that they came before us and mentioned that they're going to do this Oregon Parks anyway, didn't they? Didn't we talk about this before? Maybe not. Huh?
We have done some other 0 lot line CSMs just on the other side of Ithaca Court by the same contractor. Phillips Contracting is doing kind of most of the ones I think at Ithaca Court, and then a different contractor is doing the ones on Odyssey Court just across the way. But this is 3 different duplexes, and just our standard 0 lot line duplexes meets all of our requirements. Village engineers signed off on all of these as well.
Okay, so first one, item F. So we need a motion recommended village board approval of 0 lot line certified survey map for lot 105 Ithaca Court.
So moved, Bino.
Bino move.
Second, Mar.
Second, Mar. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries. Jeannie, I don't hear a female voice in these approvals, these yeses and ayes.
It must be using my deep voice.
Oh, okay, I got it. Okay, I just checking. Okay, item G, the same thing. Recommendation of village board approval of 0 lot line certified survey map for lot 106 Ithaca Court. Your motion?
So moved, Bino.
Second, Mar.
Second, Mar. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And item 7H, discussion, possible recommendation village board, 0 lot line certified survey map, lot 107 Ithaca Court. Motion to approve.
So move, Mar.
Mar move. Second by Schnelly. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion, and anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Go to item 7I, discussion with Forward Development Group, conceptual layout lot 41 and Tarkington parcels along Highway CC, Highlands of Netherwood neighborhood. Do we have anybody representing them here tonight?
We do.
Okay.
And I did not prepare a cover memo since Jessica did a great job, but this is a conceptual discussion of lot 41 in Tarkington. We're expecting likely in February at the Planning Commission meeting to have an annexation petition for the Tarkington parcel from the town into the village, as well as a GDP for Tarkington as well. So wanted to get this in front of you tonight just so you can see their concept for a multifamily development along CC and Peterson Trail, and Connor as well as Jessica from FDG and JSD are here to present and answer questions.
Okay. Jessica, did you want to have any comments to us or anything at this point? No, it's okay.
I think maybe Connor was going to be presenting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry, just again, without,
Yeah, Jessica's talking, but we can't hear you, Jessica.
Wonder if,
Sorry.
there you go.
There we go. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, and Jessica, I can do a brief introduction if you'd like.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Connor Kearney here, Forward Development Group. For those of you that do not know, I oversee land development for FDG. Intimately familiar with the Highlands and Netherwood project as a whole. With us here tonight from FDG, we have Dennis Steinkraus. Many of you recognize Dennis's name. He's been heavily involved in the plat approvals for Highlands and Netherwood. We also have Brent Ellefson on the line. He's been assisting FDG with entitlement coordination, help with the vision for the projects we're going to be discussing here tonight, And then, of course, Jess Vaughn, JSD Senior Planner for the Highlands and Netherwood development, who will be a great resource for the Plan Commission and any planning, zoning, or land division questions this evening. So I'll keep it brief on a general overview here and then open it up for questions. But many of you are familiar with the Highlands and Netherwood development. And in general, we're excited to present what would be the next phase of development of the project, which is intended to provide an alternate housing opportunity within the development and the community. As Elise mentioned, in October of 2020, the Highlands and Netherwood development acquired the former Tarkington parcel along Highway CC. And as we evaluated the most appropriate way to incorporate that parcel into our development, what you see in front of you this evening for Lot 41 and the multifamily project is what we believe to be a fitting approach to doing just that. Lot 41's updates are mainly driven by the changes in stormwater design for the Highlands and Netherwood development. By acquiring the Tarkington parcel, we were able to modify the retention basin in the southeast portion of the Highlands and Netherwood development. And that really has allowed for the conveyance of stormwater from Lot 41 to this basin and the removal of the previous stormwater outlet on Lot 41. So in doing so, we were able to create an increase in unit count on Lot 41 as shown in the concept plan. And as for the multifamily project, the intent here is to provide generally a market appropriate product to the community and also provide a nice transition from County Highway CC to the rest of the single family homes in Highlands and Netherwood. So what you see here tonight is a combination of 11 10-unit buildings that make up the site in a relatively low density manner. The concept plan does impact a portion of the Highlands and Netherwood plat. Thus, the approvals would include a replat process as well. So, the main goal for this evening being a high-level overview and just to receive constructive feedback from the Plan Commission to inform our design moving forward. So, with that and from direction from staff, we can open it up to questions or comments as we have our full team here. So hopefully we can answer to the best of our abilities. So thank you for the review and feedback.
Okay. Elise, do you have any more comments about it?
Not at this time. I believe just so this would for approvals be revision to the SIP coming up later this winter or spring.
Well, it does help with the remainder of the development. You said you revised revisited your stormwater control, which helps. So, Plan Commission members, anybody have any concerns or issues about this? Yeah, I'm going to ask you, John, because again, you're going to be our expert on that.
Well, I don't know about that. What is the typical unit size in this revised layout that you're showing on the screen right now?
Yeah, so this is, hi, Jessica Vaughn here. So what we did, I think one of the most notable changes on Lot 41 was to change, so we had a condo plat originally, and those condo units, oh, thanks, Elise. Those condo units were fairly small and they were in that 4,000 range. What we did in working with builders is they had noted that they would want to eliminate as much of the common elements as possible, which increases to a certain level of affordability. And so our condo units are actually what we would call lots, even though they're condo units. So they got significantly bigger because the unit sizes actually go to the edge of the development now. So when we talk about units here, we talk about the condo, which is the land, but we also talk about the house, right? And I'll leave that up to Connor because I believe they're working with a couple of different footprints in here. Connor, do you know off the top of your head in terms of the size of the house? But our condo units are ranging, I believe, from about 4,500 up to 11,000 square feet for some of the larger ones.
Yep. Yeah, that's right on. So it's the majority fall in that 7,000 to 9,000 square feet range for the actual condo units. The buildings themselves on the previous version of this plan, there were alternate building sizes, as you can see noted here. The feedback we got from the building community, the preferred method to create variation within the development was through materials, facade changes, the actual architectural details of the buildings, as opposed to having multiple different layouts. So what we've actually done in the modified concept here, it is the same footprint for these, but we're planning to change architectural treatment to create that variation. The floor plans are ranging around the 1,300 range, I believe, right now as the first floor.
And then what is the approximate dimension between those units themselves? The lots you said varied in size from like 7,000 square feet, but about what's the distance between those two units?
There's a 10-foot separation between each unit. In some cases, there's a little bit more, especially when the multi-use path comes in between units.
And that's from wall to wall or over eave to eave?
Wall to wall.
And are these units sprinkled then? Or are they not sprinkled?
I don't
per code. I believe per code they
exactly
would have to be, but that's something we can verify. But to address the the separation of the buildings, we did try to stagger to create different viewing opportunities, which depending on which room you're in the units themselves. Some are in line, but some are more staggered than others.
Okay. The last question I've got is between this lot and the next lot, I'm looking at the curb cut onto Peterson Trail. And that's going to be Peterson Trail is going to be a pretty active intersection. There's going to be a lot of people coming out. And now we have an instance where Tivoli Circle, and I don't know what you're calling that other curb cut into the condos on the east there, or on the right, they're not in line with each other. And I know that we as a village have frowned on that approach in the past. So I know that I will be looking for, when this comes in, for more information for something that has that approximating them opposite each other.
Okay.
I mean, otherwise, I understand where you're going with it. The market is driving this, and you're taking advantage of your stormwater changes. So why wouldn't you?
This is Larry Marr. Similar questioning here, and this pertains to if we've got all the right spaces and radiuses for fire equipment to get in, if that's been looked at. It looks like some of those spaces are a little tight that way, but
yeah. So just to address that, we did work really closely with the fire department on the initial general development plan and site implementation plan for lot 41. That went through the full review and approval gamut. We haven't changed drastically what you see here from what you originally approved and saw. The fire department was looking for an overall, I believe it was 36-foot wide Tivoli Circle, and virtually even those legs for turnaround and for staging, and this maintains that dimension for them.
Good.
I've got a comment on both of the site plans as I lay them out, and as I was glancing out my window on this appropriate night when it's snowing, I think both of those sites are going to be a really tough situation when it comes to snow removal and snow stacking space. And I get the affordability part of it, but I have experience with condominiums in a tight nature like this, where they actually have to haul snow away after a sizable snow event. And from an affordability standpoint, that gets really expensive, time after time on a busy winter. So I definitely would look at where snow is going to get stacked. And in some cases, you're showing trees right in an area where snow could otherwise maybe be piled. But as dense as these are, you really need to look at that.
And we had envisioned that central island there for snow storage, but that's definitely something we'll take a closer look at just to make sure that that area would be sufficient for this type of development.
All right. Anybody else?
Slavny here. Jessica, can you tell us what happened to the bike path connection to the west? Aside from it's gone?
Yeah.
I had the same question. Yeah.
I believe we have that coming up and connecting through a lot there, connecting to the sidewalk and then coming over and around. And then, Jessica, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that was because of grade considerations.
Jessica, you're muted. We can't hear you.
I keep on hitting mute because I don't know what my dog's going to do. I hope he just continues to lay there and be good, but usually at this time of night, he wants to go outside. So I guess that was one of the points of discussion that I was hoping that somebody would bring up this evening. Because in moving forward, when we looked at grade, it made more sense to make that connection in between those two lots there. But that if the other location is preferred, that's something that we would need to look at and kind of go back to the engineering drawing board on. But in terms of maintaining accessibility, this path was the better route.
So by the two lots, do you mean at the end of Denmark Court or Denmark Circle cul-de-sac?
Denmark Circle. Yep, exactly. And so that path to the west then connects to would have a better point of connectivity too through that cul-de-sac in the main north-south. So you wouldn't have to go all the way through lot 41 to get to the west. You would be able to cut over sooner.
Right, I agree. And I think we suggested that right at the outset of this project, but fine, if we're getting to it now, that's great. Would you mind labeling that as future versions of the plan for lot 41 come forward? And then also provide the village with a description of, how that would be platted, integrated into the plat, that's already been approved.
Sure.
I agree that it's a better location. Thank you.
Okay.
I got a question for Jeff. Jeff, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing a light pole location. Village-wise, is that enough for our typical street layout? Do they need more than one?
And actually, I'm not sure. I did provide some comments to Elise earlier, and I think she forwarded those to the applicants. Yeah, some of my comments were snow storage, turning radius, and light and the bike path. So I think it's kind of funny we've been covering most of it tonight here. These are private roads, and so my suggestion I think had been that added lighting would be recommended. It seems to always be a request, and then they come, people who buy these find out how dark it is and then come back to us and we say, well, it's private. You guys have to figure out how to do it yourself. So we recommended more lighting.
All right. I don't hear any real objection to the development, correct?
This is really similar to what had gone through, was that 2 years ago, Jessica? Probably.
I think it was 2019.
Yeah, I think that was I think it was 2018.
Yeah, back
when we went through the process.
Freedoms and we met in person and all that cool stuff.
Right? Remember those days?
Yeah, when we could go to restaurants and have a life.
Exactly.
But this is very, very similar layout, and that went through a lot of scrutiny with the fire chief and everything else. I mean, there's definitely more of a density. There was some concern, I think, over some of the lot lines and that, but I think they've, by and large, have stayed fairly true. Just a little different layout with them being able to push that stormwater pond over. And we're in support. Anytime we can reduce the number of stormwater ponds. That's one fewer pond that we have to take care of, or if it's private, in this situation, it's something that the village would have to take over. So we're in support of that, as long as it works and meets all the, still the release requirements and retention requirements.
Okay.
Greg, I got one question for the applicants. Overall, I think it's a much better plan. I like it. I'm noticing that the guest parking has been removed. Was there a particular reason why that was removed?
I think, go ahead, Connor.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Jess. Let me know if I missed anything, but we did have the guest parking originally in this plan here. But in some of the early discussions with staff and first look at this, that issue of snow storage, as Jeff pointed out, was brought up. So we chose to eliminate that and make that island slightly larger to accommodate for that snow storage. What we're also able to do in increasing the lot sizes generally throughout the project was increase some of the driveway lengths. So in addition to the garages that each of the units have, there's room for parking for 2 vehicles within those driveways. We found that a lot of tenants in similar type developments, their guests park in the actual driveways of the units.
And would street parking, I can't see street parking being allowed because of the size of the aisles. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, I think the intent when we do the covenants and restrictions here would be to prohibit the street parking on the private streets, encourage it on the actual units themselves.
I do seem to remember we've looked at this a few times at our planning staff meetings. I think maybe one comment was to have 1 or 2 out areas for some overflow parking for holidays and whatnot. So I'm not sure if you all have explored that as an option.
And that is something we can consider. We'll look into the sizing, like I said, of the snow storage there and see because that is the best spot, that central location for some of the parking. But we do want to avoid having to haul off any snow from the site, and the goal would be to retain it on site and store it there.
Right. Any more? Anybody else?
We do have the concept for the Tarkenton parcel, so if you want, I can flip to that page.
If you'd like to, sure.
Zoom out a little bit and see if I can rotate this page so it's a little easier to orient ourselves. There we go.
Yeah.
So Connor, you want to walk us through this one as well?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So 11 overall buildings here, 10 units each. And the intent was to provide some sort of transition into the single family lots here from CC and really create somewhat of a community scaled approach to multifamily housing. What we wanted to avoid was, the medium or higher density product and, any of the 3-story stuff here. We didn't feel like it would be an appropriate entrance to the development. And we thought this was a little bit more scaled and appropriate approach to creating an alternative product type within the development. If Jess wanted to walk through the details of the site layout, she could. I think it's relatively self-explanatory, but overall 2 access points, one at the south end of the site and at the north end of the site. We're still looking at the phasing of this potential development, whether we do all buildings at once, which entrance gets constructed first. But the general intent of the layout of the site is flexibility in that type of design and really hitting what we believe is a needed product type in the market.
Yeah, I'll just highlight a couple of things that I think that worked out really well with between the stormwater and the multi-use paths. This development in particular is also kind of centered around this idea of a central sidewalk connectivity. So what we did is we have a sidewalk that connects to the future multi-use path that will be along County Highway CC, and that will connect up through the development. You'll see sidewalk connections that go to the east, where the new larger regional stormwater facility will be located. There's also a multi-use path that was originally on the very far east side of the Highlands of Netherwood subdivision, and it was located on the outside of that subdivision, kind of almost hidden and not connected to the interior pathway system. So what we did when we were able to regrade and kind of reconfigure our regional stormwater basin in that location is we were able to move it over to the west side and have it connect down to County Highway CC, and then it connects up through the on the very far lease on the very far east side of between the stormwater pond and this development. So you have a couple of points of connectivity that will get you into the larger, more regional trail system, but also that connects the neighborhood trails and pathways, and then the new park on the north side of the development. So I think, from a connectivity standpoint, the stormwater and thinking about how we're going to organize buildings in this particular site worked out really well, happening both at the same time.
Can you, I got two questions right off the top of my head. One, what is the X'd out boxes that are shown? There's 3 of them.
Those are the refuse areas.
Okay. And then
those were difficult to strategically locate. Let me just say that. And we're still kind of playing around with it a little bit. So if you have any comments on those or the locations of those, I'm all ears.
Initially, I thought those were elevators, which would make it really easy to get rid of the refuse.
Right?
Jessica, have you looked into, that was another one of my comments, I know, to Elise, was the offset driveways between the two developments there. Have you looked at trying to align those?
That's something that we can certainly look at, Jeff. I have that in my notes.
Okay, good.
I would, you've got 110 units here, and the driveway centering on, I don't know what lot number that is, across Peterson Trail. I don't know who would want to live on that lot with cars and headlights and everything coming in and out of there all the time. I'm wondering if you could maybe line up the entry to this with, I think it's Denmark.
Yep.
Might make for a smoother transition in and out. And then this development is getting cluster mailboxes. Is there on-site clusters, or is there a area somewhere near here where all these units will receive mail?
Yeah, there would be a location within the site for a clustered mailbox.
Connor, do you know if that would be interior to like the management office, or is that something that's going to need to be exterior on the site?
That's something we can ask our property manager, and most likely, be a logical location, be adjacent to, building 11 or centrally located with those cluster units. But that's something we can get advice from the property manager and make sure we clearly denote that when it gets resubmitted.
Sure. Okay.
Can you walk me through where the front, if I'm a visitor and I'm going to, I don't know, pick building 3, where do I go? Where's the front door?
So your front door is technically where the sidewalks are being shown. So that those are where the patio areas would be adjacent, the front walks, if you will. The internal is just the drives and the garages. So the units it's envisioned to be a stacked flat concept, if you will. So there'd be 4 units on the first floor, and then garages on the other side. And on the second floor of these buildings would be 6 additional units. So 10 a building, but it would be facing each other, those to create that community feel.
Okay. So to that point, where do I park if I'm visiting?
It's somewhat of a similar approach to lot 41, and we've designed the driveways with enough length that they could fit 2 vehicles in addition to the garages for each unit.
Okay, so I have to park behind the building, go out into the street, get to a sidewalk, walk all the way around to a front door?
For visitors, you ideally will come through the garage and how those are designed. The side units have side entries, as you can see on some of those. And the more detailed submittal will have concept imagery and elevations as well. Be a lot clearer to see.
Okay, I'm going to suggest that,
go ahead. Oh, go ahead. I was just going to mention that there are 2 locations on the site now that have surface parking, and there's a surface parking field, right where Elise is got her hand right now, and a second one there.
Okay, I'm going to suggest that you might want to think about maybe adding a third, even if it's a few parking stalls. But if I'm coming to visit and you don't know that, I don't know which garage is yours, much less come through the garage. It would be nice to figure out a way, think about the people that are using this that don't know their way around this site.
Sure.
I mean, conceptually, it's not that different to what we sort of did on the Bergamot condos. You know, a little bit different building shape, whatever. But it's not a far cry from stuff we've done in the past. So. That's it for me.
Yeah, right.
Are these 2-story units or 3-story units? I'm sorry if I missed it, but I don't seem to find any indication.
These would be 2-story buildings.
Okay.
Okay. And at least again, this annexation partition, that's going to be coming up.
Correct. That's scheduled right now for that February 4th meeting.
Okay. All right.
There'll also be a replat of some of the single family homes in this area. I think some of those lots were given up to be part of this multifamily development. So you will be seeing that later this winter. So.
I was a little confused trying to look at this thing. Yeah. Okay.
Right. They don't quite line up. So there was some rearrangement done.
Yep. Now they don't. So, okay, good. Anything else? Okay, that was just a conceptual layout. Good. Thank you, everybody, for making the presentation. So nobody has any problems with the Correcting Plan Commission at this point? Good. Thank you. All right. We'll move on then. Are there any other public appearances from anybody?
I think that rounds it out.
Yeah, well, I got to make sure.
Thank you very much.
Item 8, communication miscellaneous business. Next meeting is February 4th on Zoom. Are we ever going to get back? I don't know. Item 9, unfinished business. Updated conceptual layout for Autumn Ridge phases 2 and 3.
Let's turn the packet back. Right. I just wanted to share this with you all. We did share this, I believe, at the December meeting, conceptual plans layout for Autumn Ridge phases 2 and 3. Since that time, I was looking at our parkland dedication requirements and noticed that the square footage of parkland that had been shown by the developer actually exceeded our new requirement. I believe the requirement went from 2,900 square feet per dwelling unit down to 878 square feet per dwelling unit. So out of good faith, reached out to the developer, just let them know that they have provided an excess of park area. They did amend that park area a little bit and were able to add 3 single family lots to phase 2. So the parkland changed, reduced a little bit, and then for phase 3, it really didn't change too much. These obviously are in still a conceptual stage, and we have submitted some comments to them about making sure these parks are visible and accessible. And the developer is, committed to working with us to make sure there's sidewalks and signage and everything. And these will likely move around a little bit, but this is the plan that was submitted to CARPC earlier this week for the urban service area amendment. And I just wanted to make sure that the Planning Commission saw this slightly revised layout.
Okay, good. Anybody questions? Again, I mentioned to you, very nice that you brought to their attention they could add some more lots, so it was good.
Maybe they'll throw in a playground for us. We'll see. I think I just made them some money, so.
Yep. Okay, they're moving on then to item 10, new business. Discussion, possible adoption of resolution 21-01 to recommend proceeding with the urban service area amendment process for Autumn Bridge phases 2 and 3.
Right, so just noticing a typo here. That's the one you're telling me about, Mike.
Yep.
So in tandem with the plan that we just looked at for the CARPC urban service area amendment, we do need a formal resolution by the Planning Commission, and we'll have one at the village board on their meeting on Monday night.
So this resolution
signs on, for the urban service area amendment. The Planning Commission agrees that they'd like to proceed with the amendment.
All right, so it is a recommend. Well, this resolution is a resolution approved, or a resolution made by the Plan Commission, which then be forwarded to the village board.
They will actually have a separate resolution, so this one will be signed by you, Greg. But it's adopting a resolution to formally request CARPC to consider and approve the USAA for the 40.7 acres.
Okay. So we're looking for a motion to adopt resolution 21-01.
Got a question. Looks like in phase 3 on lot 100, there's a small building there. Is that the lift station to make the sewer work?
This here. This building, Scott?
Yeah.
On lot 100, down left, yep, right there.
Oh, I believe that's just a footprint of a potential house layout.
Oh, that maybe is the house that's already there.
Yeah.
That's the house that's there.
I think it's kind of over near the Greenway.
I think it's
down in that area.
This structure here.
Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't know how the sewer was getting lifted or where the infrastructure for that was going on here.
Yeah. So gravity sewer, just so you know, gravity sewer currently exists across Foxfield and Wolf Street there, and it's actually on the east side, right? Whoops, right there. So that's the start of it. There's a gravity manhole right there. So they'll pump from one of the low points to be able to get up to that gravity manhole.
All right.
Okay. Will that require a structure of some sort, or will that just be a manhole somewhere?
No, it'll be like a duplex submersible pump station. They're all over the place. They're like a 6 or 8 foot diameter concrete manhole, 25 feet deep, that type of thing.
And it'll go on an outlot here, one of these outlots, or?
Yeah. They're still working on that, I believe.
Okay. And then the previous Tarkington property that we looked at, does that need an urban service area, or is that already within the urban service area?
It's already within the urban service area. The comp plan already shows that as the planned neighborhood.
Move to approve.
A second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Marr. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Item 10B, the 2020 Oregon Affordable Housing Report.
All right. This is not as exciting as it should be. I didn't have too much time to revise from 2019, but I did update some numbers with construction, which was down, of course, a little bit over 2020 2020 and updated numbers with regards to number of houses on the market, average price of home sales, all of that. So it looks pretty similar to the report that Vanwell put together for us last year. And I do think it might be worth our while if we ever have a light planning commission agenda or maybe a special meeting, potentially with the village board. There were some really great suggestions made by Vanwell last year about different things we can change in our zoning code, in our comp plan to encourage affordable housing or other types of housing within the village. And I think probably deserves its own discussion. But at this point, I didn't have too much time to go into those. And I think before we go through revising those, we should dig into those suggestions a little bit.
You want us to hang on to this report somehow, or?
Yeah, it's on the village website. It's actually a requirement of the state now that we're over 10,000 residents. So we have to do this every year. So it's right on the homepage. Housing affordability report, in case you lose. We'll certainly put it in another packet when we do have time to discuss this later.
So we got a small tree here. That's what I was wondering. Very small. Something.
I see Slavny as a comment.
I just want to note that we skipped item 10A.
No, we didn't.
No, we just voted on
We
that.
just approved it.
The resolution.
Sorry, I missed it. Thank you.
Never
Never mind.
A motion by Bino and a second by Mr. Marr. Did we not?
I got it. All right, Greg, you're frozen on my end here. Anybody else having a hard time hearing Greg?
Yeah, I got him locked up on mine.
Okay. Do you want to take over, John?
Yeah,
For the moment,
sure.
so Greg comes back to
Sure.
life.
Sounds good.
We're
What was
almost
the
done.
guy? What was the guy 30 years ago that used to have the twitch in his head? God. Anyways, never
Max
mind.
Headroom?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Sorry, I got dropped out of this thing. What all went on while I was out?
We're talking
Voted you
about you,
off the
Greg.
committee.
I
You
figured that.
changed your
That's
name
why I
to
wanted
Max
to-
Headroom.
I'm going to be talking to Spectrum tomorrow.
There was a vote to invoke the 25th Amendment.
So I'm out. So what happened? So we did make a motion to approve it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I not thought so. I know so. All
So
right.
we're on to 11.
Well, we haven't. Okay. Yeah, you left me behind. Like I said, this has been happening in my house here for the last couple of days. It's short outages.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? I don't know who else is on back to Spectrum, but I've been dealing with this.
I had
All right,
one
so
question for Elise on the affordable housing report.
Mhm.
And that is, I was quite astonished by the number of vacant infill or greenfield parcels. Is that what's also illustrated on the map later on in that report?
It is. It includes all of the Bergamot lots that have been platted but not built, all of the Highlands and Netherwood lots that have been platted but not built on. I'm trying to get up to that page. So
that's I think page 148. Yeah.
there
So
you go.
everything that's
it is. Yeah. So that's a lot of the ones in yellow here.
Okay.
I did update a couple of these from what's been developed this year based on building permits. And then, some of the Autumn Ridge lots as well. So
okay.
it looks higher than it actually is. A lot of those haven't, of course, those phases haven't been released yet.
Okay.
Okay, staff report. Development, status of developments and projects. Let's see.
Just as far as any kind of development projects, I think, things are continuing to move ahead nicely. We've met with, actually, I'm not going to release the name, but we have met with a developer the other day, and they're wanting to bring another phase of their development in. and that's good. You know, we see Autumn Ridge moving ahead. I think Mike, Grace, correct me if I'm wrong here, but they were saying normally they were at 60 to 80 lots per year, and this last year they were at 30, or I mean, it was less than 50% of their normal lot sales per year. Wasn't that right, Mike?
I think I heard 32 lots typically sold per year, and it was 16.
It's 16. Okay, so yeah, it was half, and so.
But actually, for even though we're in the middle of this situation here with the pandemic, we still had 45 single-family permits issued in 20, which is not bad for us. We get between 40 and 50. That's a pretty good year for us. So we're very fortunate.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we expect a kind of a little bit of a lag from, you know, some stuff, but not much. We think it'll be a good year development-wise.
All right. Future meetings. Okay, amending parking zone, our parking requirements, street tree requirements, TIF, conceptual discussion, temporary uses. Nothing we want to talk about now, right?
No. Save that for another night. I think we talked about enough tonight.
Yeah. You know, I got, oh good, it's 9 o'clock. I can go back and watch that speech that was recorded earlier or not. Okay. Do you need a motion to adjourn? We have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed. Thank you, everybody. It was a good meeting. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Good night,
Bye, everybody.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.